Hello and welcome to Back at Camp, Mojave County's only outdoor television show. I'm your host, Captain Don Martin, and on today's show I have two very special guests. I have Frankie Mueller and his dad Wally, and they're going to tell us how Frankie won the 2014 High School Championship, a national fishing tournament in South Carolina. So don't go away. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Welcome back to Back at Camp. I'm your host, Captain Don Martin. With me today, I got two very special guests. I'd like to welcome Frankie Mueller. Frankie, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Wally, good to see you again.
Pleasure.
These guys just came back from South Carolina where Frankie just won the 2014 National High School Fishing Championship. What we're going to do is we're going to talk to these guys today, and they're going to tell you a little bit about what it took to get them to that level where they competed for the highest honor that a high school angler can ever have. So, Frankie, let's start off about how'd you get into this fishing stuff?
Well, I mean, it all started about 4 years ago. We were in Bass Pro Shops in Phoenix, and I was looking at fishing poles, and this lady came up to me. She's like, "You really look like you need to get into fishing." And I said, "Well, yeah, I really want to." And she's, "Well, here's a number. Call this guy. He runs a juniors bass club down here in Phoenix." So he called him, and turned out we had actually met that man a few years later or earlier at Alamo Lake, and I joined that club as the Phoenix Junior Bassmasters. And I mean, we went out there, and I only got to fish 2 tournaments the first season, and I caught 1 fish the first tournament. And then the next tournament, I caught 13 pounds at Lake Pleasant and qualified for the state championship, which is how I really started to get big into it, because I realized I can
But you live here in Kingman, right?
Right.
I mean, you've grown up in Kingman, right? And you started fishing. I mean, you've been fishing with your dad, right, for a long, long time. Does he know how to fish?
Yeah. He puts up a good fight.
Yeah, and the good thing is he owns a boat.
Right.
Right? Okay, well, so you got to have a boat if you're going to fish, right, in this kind of competition. So how old were you when you were down there and you got into this Phoenix Juniors?
I was 14 turning 15.
Okay. So you meet these people out of Phoenix. Well, that's a long ways to go to go fishing in a tournament when you live in Kingman and you guys fishing out of a Phoenix club.
Oh, that's why we pretty much moved a club to Kingman, because the money was just it was too expensive for us to go back and forth every month and every week, for that. So
right. Now, Wally, you've been involved with this and with his development and fishing and whatnot, and like you say, going to Phoenix back and forth to those tournaments was a huge financial thing. And so you decided you're going to start a bass fishing outfit club up here, because we got lots of kids like Frankie that like to bass fish.
Yeah, there was a lot of kids I noticed from his school that were admiring his ability to go and fish in these tournaments against other kids their age, and there was some interest there. So I researched it a little bit with a gentleman that was running the Phoenix club at the time. His name's Curtis Delagrange, and Curtis was pretty instrumental in helping me get our club here in Kingman off the ground. Okay. And we started with 10 members in 2012. Last year we were up to 24.
Wow.
Here locally, and we've got a boy from Yucca and one from Lake Havasu also in the club.
Wow.
That are participating. But this year, because of graduations and things like that, our numbers are down. I think we're sent 14 or 15 memberships to the TBF this year. Okay.
And what is the TBF?
The TBF is the Bass Federation. It's kind of like the minor leagues for the FLW.
Okay, and the FLW is the Forestdale Woods. It's the big national.
That's the ones you watch on the weekends with the fully wrapped sponsor boats, and they're on national television. Fishing literally coast to coast every.
Wow, that's awesome. And this group that you started here locally, who are they known as?
We are known as the Mojave Junior Bass Club.
Okay, so you've been in existence for a couple years.
Yes, sir.
I know. When we've talked about this before, you guys needed to get some shirts. I was able to go to Phoenix and pitch a deal to some conservation groups down there, and they throwed some money our way and got all the kids a nice shirt.
And we're still operating on that money, and thank you very much.
Well, glad to help out. And like I say, there's some kids. I mean, I kind of covered that and see the tournaments they were in, and man, they were doing pretty good. Those kids, some of the kids are sticks.
We've got some kids that can flat catch fish
Yeah.
in this Mojave Club, and every time we go to the state level tournaments, usually in May, there's people in Phoenix that are a little worried that Kingman's coming.
Right.
And rightfully so, and it just hadn't been in the cards for us, but eventually we'll get someone in there and win that tournament.
Yeah. So now so Frankie started fishing. He was fishing with the Phoenix Club, then he started here. And so how did he get started though in this ascent to a national stage? What happened there? How did he get there?
Well, we were fishing with the Phoenix Club. His partner in the high school fishing is a young man out of Phoenix, Shane Edgar. Shane's dad and I struck up a friendship through these meetings and the various tournaments that we would attend together. And Shane's quite a bit younger than Frankie. He's 3 years younger, and at the time was fishing in the underage group. And Shane's dad, Mike, suggested that when Shane enters high school, that we team them up and get him in this high school fishing situation. Mike's son Shane is very passionate, just like Frankie is, about fishing, and it was a perfect match as we've found out.
Right. So that's how Frankie got hooked up with Shane.
Yes, sir.
Who's been his partner now for over a year.
Since last May, yes.
Yeah. And your first big tournament that you guys fished as a team was the state championships?
Yeah, it was a state championship last year in Havasu.
In Havasu. And how many teams showed up for that event?
Pretty sure there was about 17 teams that showed up for that.
17?
Yeah, I think there was 11 teams just from Yuma High School.
From
Seven.
Yuma?
There were 7 teams from Yuma, 2 from Payson, and I can't remember. There was quite a few teams there.
Wow. And so now, and I guess every club had their own qualifier to see who they were going to send?
Well, the high school fishing, the state championships is an open. If you can
So it's
form
an
a
open
team,
event?
you can come and put your name in the hat with your partner and make a run at it, and that's exactly what Shane and Frankie did.
Now, Frankie, you fished Havasu before as part of the Mojave Juniors Bass Club and just fishing.
Right, yeah, that's like one of my home lakes. I refer to that as my home lake.
Okay, so you and Shane went down there, and you got bass anglers, young guys. Do you got any ladies that fishing in this thing yet?
There's actually a couple girls in the club, yeah.
Yeah, well, you guys better stand by, because it's been my experience. Those young gals, they get the passion for it. They can be a force to reckon with. So you ended up down there. You're fishing against all these teams, and what was the format? One-day tournament?
It was a one-day tournament, and we fished until noon, from 7 o'clock safe flight till noon.
Right.
And then we had to be back at the launch ramp, and that's all the time they gave us.
How many fish could you weigh in?
5. It was 5 bass
Okay.
limit.
And it's there's no first, second, third, and fourth. It's just the
Winner
first
take
place
all.
team
Winner, yeah.
moves on, right? So you guys won that.
Yeah,
How much weight did you have?
we had 14 pounds and 7 ounces.
Okay, and so anybody close to you?
Second place was in the 13s. They had us worried there for a little while, but they pulled out their first 3 fish, and they were pretty big, and then they had 2 little rats. So
Okay.
that's
So
just funny.
you guys win that. You win the Arizona State Championship, and I think is this the trophy we're looking at right there?
Yeah, that's the one.
So you and Shane win this, and what is that? When you win this, what does that qualify you for? What did you get to do next?
We got to move on to Northern California, which is the regional championship, and that was at Clear Lake.
Okay, so that's the Western Conference Championships, which you had teams from all over the West, Wally?
Yes, sir. There were teams from Idaho and California. It was there were several states that didn't send representatives for whatever reason, but it was Oregon, Idaho, California, Arizona, Nevada. I think Wyoming was in our division. They didn't send any representatives in Washington State.
So these are the state champs.
The state champs.
That's the best that state had to offer that went up there, and you went to Clear Lake, which Clear Lake, if people don't know about Clear Lake, that's a big bass lake, and there's some lunkers in that place, and it's not a gimme place, it's just a great place to fish to hold a fishing championship. You ever fished that before?
No, I never have. That was my first time ever fishing that lake.
Did you get to do some pre-fishing?
We went up there for a whole week. My grandparents rode up there with me.
Okay. And who are your grandparents?
Brenda and Frankie Mueller.
Okay, and for those that don't know, I used to work with Corky when he was a police officer here for the Department of Public Safety. So his grandpa and I go way, way back. So it's kind of interesting to see his grandson sitting here next to me. We're talking about fishing. So Grandpa took you up there and you got to fish. You figured it out a little bit, huh?
Well, I had a cousin from Phoenix who was up there also for the pro event of the tournament, because all of these high school tournaments are based off of a college or a FLW pro tournament that's going on.
Okay.
And that was also the college region championship and the Western pro region championship. And when we got up there, we just kind of both divided and conquered,
Yeah.
And we went out, and one day he told me, I'm going to fish shallow. So I said, I'm going to fish deep. And we pre-fished, and we both ended up actually fishing the same spots. We just didn't know it. And
that's a big lake, though.
Oh, it's a big lake. It's a real big lake.
And you guys, so you kind of got a pattern figured out?
Yeah. Mainly we were fishing. Our big pattern was out deep in 30 to 25 foot of water.
Wow.
And we were throwing a giant 10XD crankbait that dives 25, 30 foot down.
Right.
And there was a boat ramp that came out, and the rocks just fell off the edge of that boat ramp, and we just throw that 10XD crankbait out there and just slowly roll it up, and those big ones just sit out there and eat it.
So you caught some good fish on that tournament.
For sure. Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys ended up actually winning the Western Conference.
Yeah, we had 23 pounds and 11 ounces.
For 5 fish.
5 fish.
Wow, that's incredible. That's, man, let's almost a 6 pound or 5 pound, 4 pound, a little over 4 pound average.
Yes, sir.
For those fish. That's some quality fish. Folks, we're going to take a little break here, and he's going to tell us now he's won that Western Conference Championship and what that qualified him for and where he went from there. So we're going to take a little break. Don't go away. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
For us, and they had 9 pounds and 7 ounces, and when they weighed that, our hearts just dropped. We're like, man, we don't have that. We figured we only had 7, 8 pounds. We went up there and
Welcome back to Back at Camp. I'm your host, Captain Don Martin, and we're talking with Wally and Frankie Mueller today, and we're talking about his ascent to the national stage of bass fishing back in South Carolina. Now, Frankie, so you guys had almost 24 pounds of weight at Clear Lake in the Western Conference Regionals, and what was the second place team?
Second place team, they had 18 pounds. They had around 18 pounds.
So you smoked these in the conference regionals. You smoked that tournament.
Well, I guess you could say that.
Well, when you win by 7, 8 pounds over your nearest competitor, that's a pretty good deal. Now you got a trophy for that.
Right.
Which
yep.
one of these trophies did you get for that?
That's the Western Region trophy.
Okay. So now you've won this. So you and Shane, what do you get to do next? What's next on the agenda?
Well, the only thing after regions is nationals, so
Okay.
we got to go to the national championship.
Okay. Now, Wally, going back to South Carolina, man, that's a long ways back there. How many miles do you guys have to drive back
It
there?
was a little over 2,000 miles one way.
One way.
One way.
Okay. And it's not cheap to drag a boat. You took your boat out there?
We took our boat out there.
Did you have a brand new sponsored truck and all that?
No, sir. I've got a 13-year-old Chevrolet pickup, and I don't even know how old my boat is. It's a 1986 model Ranger, and it's very well used. It's seasoned.
Been used.
Yes, sir.
And so you're taking that back there?
Yes, sir. We were driving back from Clear Lake in October when he won at Clear Lake, and the wife and I were trying to figure out how we were going to
Do this?
get to Seneca, South Carolina.
Right. And how did you do that?
We started saving right then, but we were able, through the generosity of some local businesses and businessmen here and women, we got some help financially.
Okay. And these local people that helped you out, they believed in your son and his ability to go back there and represent not only Kingman, Arizona, but the state of Arizona and the western United States and fish on a national stage against the best high school anglers in the nation, and these guys wanted to help make sure that you guys were represented back there. And who were some of the businesses that helped you out?
Very generous. Rebel Oil, Mr. Charlie Grigg, a longtime friend of mine, no hesitation when we presented this to him. Terry Vanderman and Paul and Scott Shuffler at the Kingman True Value, no questions asked, they helped us.
Helped you out.
A big supporter of us was Mrs. Randy Beal at Enterprise Rental Car here at the Chevy dealership in
the Kingman Enterprise Rental Car?
They contributed quite a bit, and none of this could have happened had Canyon Plastics and Mr. Jay Pennington sponsored Frankie through products, and these products are what has won him these tournaments.
Okay, and just so people know, Canyon Plastic is a local lure manufacturer here in Kingman, Arizona, started by Gary Garland years and years ago, and Mr. Pennington owns it now, and he's been a huge supporter for as long as I can remember, him and Gary, when Gary had it, about helping kids and our local semi-professional anglers, helping them developing baits and providing them with baits. But Jay stepped up for Frankie here, and it's paid off for Frankie and
tell you,
hopefully
Don,
for Jay.
Before we left, I sent Frankie down to Canyon to load up, and he went in and got everything he thought he needed, and I asked him to get the little minnow heads to fish their mini jigs on, and he'd forgot those. So the following day, I went down to Canyon myself just to pick those up. And the ladies in there gave me all the money back that Frankie had spent the day before, and told us that Jay had said, no, we're sponsoring that kid with product, and you could have knocked me over.
Yeah.
But it paid off, and I know Frankie and I are eternally in debt to the people who stepped forward and helped us get there.
Yeah. So it took a lot of effort, and of course it took a lot of skill and dedication and passion on his part. But now everybody's starting to get behind him. You got the local business community. So you hook up your truck with 176,000 miles and your '86 Ranger, and back 2,000 miles you head.
Yes, sir.
And what'd you guys do? I mean, what'd you look at when you're going? That's a long ways to go.
Well, with that old of equipment, I chewed my fingernails all the way. But we made it to Seneca, South Carolina, and
you stopped there in every state.
we stopped at every state line and took pictures of Frankie standing at the state line, because this is something only going to come around once in our lifetime for
Sure.
a high school national championship. And his mother wanted those pictures for his baby book.
Baby book.
I guess.
Baby book. And how old are you now, Frankie?
I'm 18.
Yeah, okay, Brenda, he's not a baby anymore, see? Brenda's the grandma, Lisa's the mom. So she wants him for the baby book.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you got him?
We got him.
And you got to see some of the lakes that these professionals that we're seeing every weekend on TV, you guys actually got to look at some of that stuff.
You bet. We drove over Lake Eufaula in Oklahoma. What were some of the other lakes? Dardanelle.
Lake Logan Martin in Alabama, just lakes I've just dreamed about fishing my entire life.
And you got to go over them and see what they look like.
Mhm.
Are they a little different than our Colorado River lakes?
Oh, much different. Like these lakes out here, that you could pull up to any random point out here and start catching fish at any of these lakes. Or back there, you could pull up to 50 points without even getting bit, because it looks like it'd be good, but it's just red clay and there's no rock or anything.
No structure at all?
Nothing. It's just
clay, slick clay banks? Wow. So now you make it Seneca, South Carolina, and it's not just your championship, but there's a collegiate championship going on.
Yes, sir.
And over at Lake Hartwell, the FLW was having a big shindig over there.
Their
with some
second
big-name
event of
pros.
their year, yes, sir.
Yeah. So there's a lot of really good bass fishermen are congregating around Seneca, South Carolina.
The pro side of that tournament put 180 boats out a day.
Wow.
For the first 3 days.
And this lake that you fish, Kiowee. Now, Hartwell's where the pros fished. Did the collegiate guys fish on Kiowee with you, or Did they fish on Hartwell too?
The collegiate guys, yeah, they fished on Lake Kiowee with us, but they fished 2 days before us, so we got to fish all of their beat up old water.
And tell me about Lake Kiowee. I mean, I've never been there. I looked on the map. It looks like it's a pretty good sized lake.
It's big. It's about the size of Lake Mojave, but it's just, like I said before, the lakes down back there are just way more different. Like, we have coves here, where there they have creeks. And like you go back into a creek and it goes on for a mile, just twisting back there, you can go as far back as your boat will let you.
And did you fish back in there?
That's actually where we won our tournament.
Oh, so you fished it out there in the backs of the creek, not out in the main body out there?
No, my partner, he had been graphing up some deep structures, some wood and stuff that he had found, and he caught a couple fish off of it in practice, but nothing really to brag about. But he thought he had something found, and we went out there and probably wasted 2 hours of the tournament out there just trying to drop shot fish on these deep structures.
Okay.
And I told him, man, Shane, every fish we've caught has been in the back of these coves, so let's just head back there and just see if we can get them. Okay. And literally we went back there, in his first cast he caught that big spotted bass that
wow. And you caught that on a drop shot?
A drop shot. I actually have the bait right here with me.
Wow, let's see it. Let's see what you caught your big fish on.
Right here is just a robo worm, morning dawn, with a 1/4 ounce drop shot weight, and I actually pour my own weight. So.
Oh wow. And
then a Powell Max spinning rod. So that's what pretty much did it for us.
So that was Shane caught the first fish. Was that a spotted bass he caught?
We weighed in all spotted bass, so yes.
You did. So you never caught any largemouth in the tournament itself. Mm-hmm. I'll be darned. And how big was your big one?
Our big one was 3.5 pounds. I'm not quite sure our exact weight, but it was 3.5 pounds.
Over 3 pounds, yeah.
Right.
Okay, and now just kind of go back a little bit. You're there at the lake. How many teams now are you fishing against?
There's 5 regions, so the best 5 teams in the nation, which there was a team from Connecticut, Minnesota, Louisiana, and South Carolina. And
which was the favorite because heck, they're fishing in just basically in their backyard.
Right.
So you're fishing against the best of the best now. Now it's no longer, it's an open thing. You've had to qualify to get there through various tournaments, and so you're there. So, okay, tell me, tournament day, what'd you do?
Well, like I said before, we went out and tried to drop shot the deep structure where we had found fish, but the lake levels, it fluctuated a lot because there's a nuclear plant on the lake. And the lake, it dropped 2 foot overnight. And we went out there, and those fish had moved from the trees out into the middle of the creek channels, and they were just suspended. And we tried to drop shot on them, and we'd watch our line drop down on the fish finder and drop right on top of those fish, and we just couldn't get them to eat. And my partner at that point, he just gave up because that was all he knew what to do. And I said, let's just try to back to these coves, and went back there, and he actually caught most of our fish in that tournament.
On the drop fish?
On the drop shot.
And you were fishing Canyon plastic stuff, and you caught some good fish there too, both during the tournament and during pre-practice.
I didn't have as good of a tournament day as he did, mainly because he was just running the front deck and he was just doing what he does best, and I was going behind him throwing a jerk bait and a spinner bait, usually what I was catching the bigger fish on in practice, trying to catch that kicker fish.
Okay, and how many bites you guys get?
I think he caught 6 fish and I caught 2.
Okay, so you guys caught 8 fish, you weighed your best 5. So what spot did you weigh in? When you guys come in, what place were you? Who weighed in before you?
The South Carolina team actually weighed in before us, and they had 9 pounds and 7 ounces. And when they weighed that, our hearts just like dropped. We're like, man, we don't have that. We figured we only had 7, 8 pounds. We went up there, and I guess that big kicker fish that he caught, the first one, and we weighed that. And I looked over his shoulder, and I could see the announcer was covering the screen. All I could see was a 9. I said, oh, we're somewhere up there, and he yelled out 9 pounds, 13 ounces, and it was just, everything came together because I knew the other teams only had 1 and 2 fish.
Oh, okay. So you guys win the national championships by about 6 ounces. What did you get? What's the prize for that?
Well, we got a $10,000 scholarship, and we got to split that 2 ways, which is $5,000, and we got this trophy.
Okay, and so you can go any place you want and go to school, and you got a $5,000 scholarship waiting on you.
Yes, sir.
What's your plans?
My plans is just, if I can, try to get into a college, usually Northern Arizona University, because my sister's boyfriend fishes on their bass club, team, and so does his brother. And if I do go to college, that'll be the one I go to fish for there. But if not, I'll continue fishing the TBF Federation as a co-angler, and I fish ABA tournaments down here.
Super. All right, folks. Well, that's all we have time for today. Listen, I want to thank Frankie. Congratulations,
Thank you.
buddy. You put Kingman on the map, man. You're a national champ.
Thank you, Don.
Wally, congratulations.
Appreciate you,
Good
Don.
kid. Listen, folks. This fishing thing is a great deal. It's a great thing for him, for Kingman, and for Arizona. He made us all proud. He won the national championship. So that's probably never going to happen again in our lifetime. So congratulations to Frankie and to Shane. And hey, until next week, this is Captain Don Martin. Say, keep your fishing line fresh, your firearms oiled, and we'll see you next week back at camp.